All right, so this is the stage of the project where you have multiple single cells. So this is a single cell. This is whatever, a form. And now you're going to start to explore multiple ways of connecting these, and you're going to make unit forms. So unit forms can consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5, or I mean, it can be as more than one, basically. Single cells connected together. So a uniform can, let's just say 2 uniforms. This could be a uniform, just connecting this plane to this plane. The plane could be connected here to here, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would not recommend connecting a seam to a seam. I would slide this up a little bit just so you have a plane shift and adds more texture and interest to your final design. So the rules of this: must connect face to face, cannot connect corner to corner or point to point. It will not hold. Once you have, say, 40 to 50 to 60 of these, sometimes even 80 individual single cells, it won't hold its own weight. So you want to connect it definitely face to face. And it could be even face to face like this. You could slide something up that much. And it's, if I were to go with a design like this, right? It's kind of starting to make this circle, and you can kind of imagine it being a radial design. It would just go around like that. If I were to extend it, slide more, that radial design would be larger, and then the less that I slide, the radial design would be smaller. And if I go all the way, then the radial design is going to be even smaller. So this could be one concept. This same design here, as you can see, I have one here. I think I flip these around in the other direction, and this is another concept here. So even though they almost do the same thing, like these could be slide down and then it could be flat here. Even though it almost looks like the same design, the same idea, there's going to be one that's a little better than the other. It's going to have more opportunity. So how do you put, and we'll explore a third option here too, but how do you connect these forms? You want to use blue tape. So what I always do is I'll just rip off a bunch of pieces of blue tape and I'll put them nearby, and that way I can just grab them. If I'm saying, like, you know what, I like how this is together here, so I'm just going to tape that seam, tape this seam. And don't just rip the stuff off. Sometimes you'll rip the paper off. And then here is a nice little step of a plane. And here I'll just secure it on the other side. Okay, that's good enough for a temporary hold. And then I'm going to connect this one the exact same way. Sometimes though, when you have another form and you're like, oh no, that's not the same way, I have to rotate this and make sure. So you want to look at this and look at this and be like, okay, nope, it goes this way. That's the same way. But what I just did there could also open another opportunity. And I'll talk about that in a second. But what I want to point out here is I slid about that far down on the plane. I'm just going to guesstimate, you know, it looks like about an inch, inch and a half. I'm going to guesstimate that right now and try to make it about the same. But if I were to commit to this and make this my final project, then I would definitely measure this out with a ruler, and I would mark it, or I would mark it with a piece of tape, and that way I would know where to glue the next piece. Again, in this case, this is a temporary idea that you're exploring, and you're going to use tape to connect them. So this doesn't have to be perfect. You're just kind of getting an idea. So this would be this is a potential unit form, right? So there you go. So what you would do is you photograph this, send it in, and you think of another unit form. You're probably going to think of like 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even up to 8 unit forms. You're going to photograph and document each one, but then you're going to go back into your phone and swipe and look for your best uniforms, your 3 best uniforms, and you're going to submit them in. If you can't commit to your 3 best, you want to submit 4, you want to submit 5 in, great. The more the merrier for me, but at least have 3. And just don't do the bare minimum and just say, oh, I'll just do 3, I'll get this project over with and I'll move forward. Because I'm going to push you to push yourself to find more solutions, because there's so much opportunity here, and that's the whole point of the project, is to find the opportunity as you're experimenting and exploring. So I would photograph this, and then you can take this apart, and I'm going to talk about this other opportunity that just came, because you don't have to put everything together the same way. It does have to be systematic, but the reason I'm showing you this was because, let me just take the tape off. This will become the annoying part. So this was like this, but then I turned this in that direction, and I was kind of interested if this is the same. I could repeat that, and now I could have a unit form of 4. And then I think I would have it, this one would do this. So this is kind of cool, and it's rotating each time. Boom, 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 boom. And if you were to go all the way around, it could work in, as a radial. But there's other opportunities. Once I put this together, I might find I can stack, like say this is my unit form, then I would make another unit form and I would try to stack it on top and see if I could find another way of putting this together other than the radial. That's kind of obvious, right? So there's more options, again, once you start to think about your unit forms when you put them together. But for now, this is an idea. You would, the idea is over. No, I'm just kidding. You would tape these together and document it. But to be honest, that was a nice little accident that just happened. I don't know if you noticed that. These two going together right there, that's kind of nice. And imagine if I put these two together and then I put these two in opposite ends. And then I did 2, 2, 2, 2. That's another unit form. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Now, I will say there's going to be some individual single cells that are really tricky to figure out. Eventually, something will take shape. Something else. So I don't want you thinking about radial all the time. It is a great solution. A circle is a perfect design. And it can kind of stand up just like a tire. If you have more than one, it can definitely look like a cylinder. But there's other opportunities out there. This is going to be your first move, probably. You're going to say, hey, this plane looks like this plane, and I'm just going to connect them together. And then that's my unit form. I want you to think a little bit more. You can slide it forward, you can slide it back, you can rotate it a little bit. So don't go after your first inclination to connect these together, thinking about that mirrored image of plane to plane. Another thing I want you to be aware of is if there's a plane, like for example, this plane, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'm holding it straight down. This plane kind of curves a little bit. And if I were to put these together, it doesn't fit. See, you can see the gap, it kind of rocks, right? It rocks. So I would not connect these together. I would not make that my design. These other planes are nice and flat, and that's where I would connect these together. This option to me is out. Unless you want to utilize this small negative space as a design element where you repeat it again and again and again, it becomes deliberate, and then you just glue the side that's flat, because half of this does kind of touch. That could work, but I think there's a lot more other options that are better. The other thing I wanted to explore is you can stack instead of like this radial design, and it's hard for you to see this, but I'm stacking, and that would see what it would look like behind. But if I stack all in the same direction, it's hard to, I think that's it, yeah. And if it just kind of does one of these things, and I might be able to do almost like a half of a sphere, and it might almost look like a porcupine, if you will, like the texture of a porcupine or the back of a porcupine, where these points just kind of come up. Actually, that would be more of a porcupine here. And if you can utilize these points, that's another, I want you to exploit the elements or the interesting parts of the single cell. So, as I was saying, like the back was interesting, but the point is actually interesting. And now I'm starting to think about, what if I rotate it this way and rotate it this way? now I'm starting to utilize these points here. How could this be an interesting, I don't think I have this correct. All right, sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out. Is this the same? There you go. Oh, I see. See, it gets tricky if you don't do it the same way. What the heck? Oh, there we go. I'm confusing myself. But see, I can kind of rotate these guys and I start to get this points starting to happen. So I'd have to figure out what I'm doing there. So what you want to do is just connect these two together. I'm sorry. You would connect these two together here. That's how I had it. Maybe I would rotate it out. I'm just trying to make it. There we go. So I would tape this, and then I would get another one, and I would tape this. And I'm starting to get these points here. But as I was exploring that, I found other ways to emphasize the points. But I'd have to make a uniform. I would tape these three together, and I would make another three, and I would see what they look like connected. So it does help to go a little bit further into the project to see what is possible. All right, this goes there. Okay, it goes here. And then after this, I'll stop because it's probably painful to watch someone struggle to put these together. So then you would tape the other side, and that way this could be your unit form. It's going to hold it together there, and you would make another one if you wanted to explore that the same way and to see how you could connect those guys. And you can also stack on top. That might turn into something else. Again, the possibilities are endless. But in this stage of the game, you're just going to think of three, or you're going to submit 3 versions of your most successful uniforms. And then after this, you're going to start part 2. And that's going to be taking these and repeating them. So say you commit to this guy. Then you're going to make more of these. Just like so. And clearly I only have 7 here, but you're going to have 20. So you're going to make more of these. And then you're going to try to put these together a certain way. Can you stack them? Can you continue on this direction? Can you bring them in? Sorry, I just said, can you bring them in and kind of like sit them in one another, almost like fingers connecting? I don't know. See what happens. But that would be part 2. All right, reach out for any questions.